Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my craft space. So, today's video, I am using a couple of new products from Simon Says Stamps June release. Out of This World, I think they're calling this release. I'll have a link to the new release in the description box below. Leave a comment. Let me know if you want to see a release and review video. I haven't filmed one yet. I am editing like a crazy person, and I haven't got to it yet, but can definitely film one. It's always fun to walk through all the products and see what's new and all the ideas. Anyway, in the release was a layering stencil set that was released to go with an older stamp set. This is the Poppy Field stamp set. I'm not sure how many videos. I'm gonna have to search again until I start editing and go through things. I know I've done, I think, a couple videos so far using the set because hello large florals, love. So when I opened the package and saw the stencils, I was like, yes. Because there's something about layering stencils. I love them. And I ended up making 2 cards with 1 stamp, like 1 stamped image, 2 cards. Did them rainbow because why not? It's always, you can never have too many rainbows. Speaking of which, because you guys will see them in my videos, my order came. I've got some fun little like rainbow stocking rings now, and then this one. These are from Pura Vida. Not affiliated, not sponsored, nothing. Yeah, I ordered them because they're cute, they're fun, and they go with like all my like rainbows of things. So anyway, keep watching to see how I made the cards, and then stay tuned because like I've been saying in the last couple of videos, I have a ton of videos coming as I'm like working through my backlog of content and editing and filming intros and all the fun things. So stay tuned. And I will have the cards coming in this video, links to other recent videos at the end, and more videos coming. Okay, so to start off, I took a piece of Simon's Smooth White Cardstock. This is 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches because my plan is to cut this in half. So I put it in my MISTI and kind of just eyeballed, you know, the center of it to line up this great big poppy image. And then I used my anti-static powder tool. You don't have to heat emboss this, but because I'm stamping it with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and it's on smooth cardstock, this ink either needs to be heat set or you just need to let it sit and dry because it takes a while to dry. And I don't have the patience for that. Plus, I just, no matter what, if this stuff isn't heat embossed for me on any sort of smooth cardstock, I end up smearing it. And having it heat embossed, it adds a little extra something because these ended up being a lot more clean and simple. I didn't even add splatter. I know. I know. People are shocked. I am okay. This ended up being a lot more clean and simple. I let the rainbow colors kind of take precedence. It just works, you know? Sometimes it just works. But anyway, the heat embossing adds a little extra something because you get that nice shine. So after I stamped it with the VersaFine Clair ink, I used Simon's clear embossing powder. And then melted that till it was all smooth and shiny. And I always have to tilt it back and forth in the light and take a really good look at the whole thing. Because, you know, you always miss a spot here and there. Anything that looks dull and grainy, hit it with the heat tool, get it melted. It's good to go. So then I've got the panel. And I'm just going to use some PIXIE tape to just hold it onto my work surface here. Because I decided I wasn't going to bother taping down these stencils because it just wasn't necessary. You know, everything just lines up so easily that I was like, meh. But I was also kind of being a little fast and loose with this because, again, clean and simple. I am clumsy. And I'll show. I still managed to like mess a couple things up here. I used my T-square ruler And I marked the center of that panel just so I had a visual. It's kind of hard to see on camera with the stencil over it, but it gave me a visual where I'll be cutting this in half. And then I had to sit and think for a minute, because since I wanted to do rainbow colors, I was like, oh, I need the rainbow of colors on both sides. So it took me a few, a minute. This was sped up in editing, but it took me about a minute or so to figure out where I need to start. And my go-to when it comes to applying inks or anything, when I'm doing like rainbow order, I always start with yellow, because yellow's the lightest color. I don't want to get my yellow ink pads and tools contaminated with all the other colors. The other colors will just absorb what they're next to, and it usually doesn't affect them. But yellow is just yellow, and it gets finicky. So I always start with yellow for that reason, and also because yellow's pretty much in the center of the rainbow. So then it gives me, again, that little bit of a visual to know where all the other colors are going to go, so I can fit them all in here. So I will list with the supplies, of course, all the specific colors used. These are all Simon Pawsitively saturated inks, and these are kind of my favorites, favorite go-to combo for rainbow colors. A little bit, not necessarily softer per se, just not like bright primary colors, So that's like Sunbeam, Grapefruit, Peony, Surf, Orchid, and then for greens, I used 2 different colors of greens. I used Celery as my lighter green, and then Perfection, since there's a bunch of greenery. And the 3 other stencils in this layering stencil set are just for the greenery. So I started with the lighter green, and then I went in with the Perfection, which was a bit darker, just to add that extra bit of depth. And if you really wanted to make it pop a little bit more, you could do an even deeper green, which now I'm like, oh, I should have pulled out Field. That would have looked really good with this. It still looks great in the end. It just would have added an extra something. And if you're not aware, or if you don't watch all my videos, I talk about Simon's inks a lot. I love them. I love them. But one of the nice things about these inks is they dry back and they smooth out as they dry. So they just, I can't even explain it really. I am falling more and more in love with all these different stencil sets, and especially layering stencils and things like that. I was never a big fan of them way back in the beginning, because I struggled with them, and now it's these just look fabulous. Anyway, erasers. I will link to these erasers. They are must-have tools in the craft room, in my opinion. One is a sand eraser, one's just a standard white eraser. I use them a lot, because I'm always getting smudges and fingerprints on everything. This is one of the reasons why I don't do very many clean and simple cards, because I usually muck them up, I like doing inky, mucky, multiple layers, yada, 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 because really you can't go wrong with those cards, because if you mess up, well, it was intentional and it's easy to cover up. It's a lot more difficult with clean and simple. It really is. But the erasers help, and that's what I did. Just the spots where I got things where I didn't want them, I just used my eraser, use a sand eraser first, smooth it out with the white eraser, and we're good to go. So I cut those panels in half and then trimmed them down a little bit while I was at it. And then I took another piece of smooth white cardstock. This was a full sheet, an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and I scored it at 5.5 inches. This will also be cut in half to create both my card bases, but I'm not going to cut it in half yet. I scored it, I folded it, and then I folded it inside out, used some tape to hold it closed, and then I'm going to put it in my MISTI again. I'd left that stamp in place. I'd cleaned it off camera, so all the black ink is gone. And I'm going to use all those same ink colors, and I'm going to use my blending brushes. And I've shown this in a bunch of videos. I love using my blending brushes and inks with stamps, mostly for the insides of my cards, although you could totally use this on card fronts as well. But it's a fun way to get multiple colors on my stamps. They blend together and it just works. So I had to do kind of the same thing. I had to stop for a second and I was like, okay, where am I placing my yellow first? Because again, these are going to get cut in half, so I wanted all the colors on each half. So starting with my yellow and then working my way out. So a couple times I did like 2 colors at once, because why not? Once you get the first like color on there, you can still see it on the stamp. And then I just work my way out. So I started with the yellow, and I did the orange. I added the green to it this time, since this is just going on the inside. And then my surf color, and then finally peony and orchid as well. So I cover the entire stamp with all these different colors, and it's going to stamp onto what will be the inside of both cards. So I'm literally doing 2 cards at the exact same time, and it just works. And thankfully it lined up every time, because I'm bad for that too. You know, I don't make sure things are, you know, in the corner of my MISTI properly, and then it's like I mess it up, have to flip it over, whatever. But yeah, even I am shocked that this worked like right off the gate. It usually doesn't. And I usually have to like scrap things and like redo them and, you know, all the fun things. I'm definitely not perfect. Like, yeah. Anyway, to cut this in half, I pulled out my big trimmer for this. You could just leave it folded and use the little trimmer. I just would rather be safe than sorry. I find a lot of times if the cardstock's folded over, to cut it when it's like that it will shift a tiny little bit, and then it's crooked, and then it drives me insane. So I left it open, cut it in half, and then I have both my card bases. So then for my sentiments, there's a bunch of great sentiments in that peony, or not peony. Did I keep calling it peony? I've got peonies on the brain. Mine are blooming this year. I'm so excited. Anyway, poppies. These are poppies. Poppy Field. The stamp set has a ton of great sentiments, but I really liked the sentiments. This is the new Here For You stamp set. And I thought just these sentiments went rather well with the rainbow color combo and the clean and simple look and whatnot. So I white heat embossed the Here For You sentiment. I used black cardstock, anti-static powder, stamped it with clear embossing ink, coated it with Simon's Detail White embossing powder, melted that with my heat tool, and then I set that aside for a minute, because while I had my MISTI out and the Here For You stamp set out, I wanted to stamp on the insides of the cards the other sentiment. So I pulled that out as well, lined that up with card base number 1, and I'm going to stamp that with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And then because the card insides are different, like the florals are on different sides, I just use the backing sheet from the stamp set to protect the inside of my card, so I could reposition the stamp without having to clean it. I've shown this in many videos over the years, because laziness always wins. So I just used that, lined up the stamp where I wanted it, removed the backing sheet, inked it up, stamped it. So now both of the cards have their colorful poppies and then their sentiments. And now back to the heat embossed sentiments. I used just my microfiber cloth to wipe off the excess anti-static powder. And there is a coordinating wafer die set for this stamp set. Although a stamp specifically like this one, you can easily trim out with like a paper trimmer or your scissors. But again, laziness. I would much rather die cut it. Plus, I like the look of die cutting. It looks so much better because it gives that pressure cut edge that just chef's kiss, man. Anyway, use that to die cut. And then to adhere everything to the card bases, I'm using Simon's Big Mama foam tape, because it is my absolute favorite thin foam tape. Yeah, I have yet to come across any foam tape that is like as thin as this stuff is. Plus they call it Big Mama because the roll is literally enormous. This one is like about a quarter left. A third. I would say about a third left. Considering how many cards I make and how much I use this foam tape, a roll lasts an insanely long time. So put the foam tape on the back of the panels, and then put those panels onto their corresponding cards. Found a few more. I managed to get more little ink smears on these, because, you know, again, I told this is why I don't often do clean and simple, because I managed to muck it up. But with that one, you can't really see it on camera, but I could see it and it was driving me insane. But again, there's ways around it. So got everything adhered first. So got the panels in place, the sentiments I also popped up with a little bit of foam tape, and then bling. Bling fixes everything, and they need it. Since I wasn't doing splatter, I wanted like something shimmery, so I used these Trinity Stamps Bubble Amore embellishments. So they're just iridescent heart-shaped embellishments. Love. And the one on the card on the left is covering up one of my little green ink smears. So yes, strategically placed bling always does it for me. So once I had them placed where I wanted, or to cover up what I needed, I adhered them into place with dabs of Craft Tacky glue, and then repositioned a couple of them because I managed to move it before the glue dried. So got those in place. Then I let the glue dry, and these cards are complete. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, I will have a link to Simon's new release in the description box below the video. I will also have a link to my blog post that'll have the pictures and picture links to everything, and the supply list that will be directly below the video in the description box as well. And then at the end of the video, I will link to the other videos I've done using this stamp set, so you can check those out if you missed them. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting, letting those robot overlords know that you guys like what you're seeing. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.